Just bear with us for a moment. Thank you so much, Talia. I believe we are now live here in the Comeback Queen for our very first session of Fierce Queens. I just heard myself in the background, so I know we're on. Thank you so much for being here, Talia.
Thank
so
you.
Grateful for your presence and for your participation in this. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm excited to be the first one to kick this off with you. This is exciting.
It's so exciting. Oh my gosh. I am thrilled. This has just been such a wonderful experience, even just getting organized. I have some feedback. Well, let me just close this off. There we go. I just had to shut off the second Facebook that was open. Sorry about that. All right. So here we are with Talia Fardo, and I am just going to quickly introduce you and then we will get started. Talia Fardo is an intuitive mentor, life coach, writing coach, and freelance editor. As a coach, she supports her clients in overcoming fears, finding their courage, shifting them out of old patterns, and peeling back layers for deep healing of wounds. She uses various methods such as neuro-linguistic programming, inner child work, and actionable tools, which help integrate tangible and positive change. So incredible. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you. We're just going to dive in. I just want to first quickly read your title of this. It is Phoenix Rising, Healing Dysfunctional Patterns and Stepping into the Light. And so I would love to hear what that means.
It's like the story of my life.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the story of, I guess, the last few years, really, because so much of my life was being trapped in those dysfunctional patterns and not even really understanding that they were contributing to a lot of the suffering that I felt, you know, in my throughout my life, and the dysfunctional relationships and the difficulties I had. It's been the last few years that I've started waking up, and thanks to my own mentors and the work that I've done, is to understand how these patterns, you know, why they don't work, what they are, how they're toxic, and then to understand how to shift out of them and the work that we have to do, because it's not instantaneous, you know, that those changes don't happen overnight. It's a really slow process of digging deeper, you know, understanding what it is, and then slowly being able to make those changes and change those instinctive reactions, you know, into different behavior, which creates, you know, healthier relationships, healthier interactions with yourself too, you know, and with the people around you.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and you just highlighted something that's so powerful and so important, that self-awareness, that really being able and willing to look within and to look at the things that, you know, I think so many of us are afraid to look at. It's so courageous to do this work.
It's hard. It all starts with the self-awareness. You know, for me in the beginning, I used to kind of, you know, go through that. My cycles were often, you know, they would culminate in a building of chaos and rage, and then kind of everything would go flat, and then try to build yourself back from that. And I got to a point where I would almost be watching myself behave this way and say, like, I don't know how to stop this. You know, I hear myself saying almost the same things, didn't matter what the provocation was, you know, and starting to clue into, like, wow, this is a loop. Like I'm caught in something that I don't even want to be doing, and yet somehow find myself there. And it took time to get from that self-awareness to a place where I could even self-examine and really understand those things about myself and why. And it's an ongoing process. You know, we're still always learning and digging deeper. It's like the bottomless pit, you know, you can go endlessly into those things.
Yes. But it sounds like, I mean, we get to a point where you're able to really, it's that ability to really self-regulate, to acknowledge, to see it for what it is, to remind yourself, all of those things where probably in the beginning, you know, when we're going through the early stages, it's not there. That's and so, right. Yeah, I can imagine there was a bit of a turning point for you that shifted things. Is that something that you're clear on kind of what that moment was?
Well, I believe we all have, various moments of transformation and things that catalyze our growth. Um, after I was married for 14 years, and then I got divorced, and then I spent about 7 years, mostly single, trying to be a single mom, working full time, trying to be everything, starting to have an awareness and understanding what I needed to heal. But really it was about 2 years ago where it really kind of hit me in the face.
Mhm.
I had struggled with adrenal fatigue for many years. Also the like perfectionist syndrome of I need to do everything and I need to be everywhere and everything for everyone. And if I don't, it's my weakness. I'm doing something wrong. And I basically ran myself into the ground until I couldn't get out of bed anymore. And it's never happened to me before. And it was all around the same time that I was having issues with my ex. The kids were really feeling they were feeling all of the intensified emotion around me and the issues I was having with him. And their behavior was starting to kind of become chaotic as well. And the more I struggled, the more they felt it, the more chaotic the household got, the more I struggled. It's a cycle that feeds into each other, into itself, that just continues to weaken you. And it all kind of came to a head when I couldn't even function in my job anymore. People were like, what's happened to you? I looked different. I couldn't even stand up straight anymore. And a friend called me for lunch one day, and she just sat me down and she was like, you need to pull yourself together. I don't care how tired you are. Your children need to see you taking care of them and not hiding away in your bed. And you need to pull yourself, like, it's tough. Like, she's like, I'm going to give you some tough love. This is what you need to do, everything. And what she said really crystallized it for me, is because she said, everything you're telling me about how you feel is all based in fear. Everything that you are experiencing is being amplified by your fear, and you're not able to see things clearly. And I just felt like a bubble burst inside me. And that really, I understood. I just understood. And it still took me time to start to being able to apply it and see it. The things didn't magically get better, from one day to the next. I also, at the same time, I met my boyfriend, who for me he's been a huge catalyst as well, because he's been a mirror. So now I understand that a lot of what I'm feeling is fueled by fear. He is mirroring back to me that my reactions are really not in line with who I should be, like who I really am inside. And I was like, I don't know who I am. I don't even know what you're talking about, and I don't want to face that my reaction is over the top or out of line, or, really not even based in what I'm facing, the reality of what I'm facing. And I'm just tightening myself up with so much anxiety and stress that I can't even function. It's hard to face those things about yourself, because it means you're not perfect, right? It means you're not doing things right, and you're not you're not the person you want to be. So it's been a lot of really facing myself. It's taken a lot of courage. It's been hard. I've resisted a lot of it. The initial resistance is always like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm not wrong, or I can't, there's nothing wrong with what I. But then, then the question is, but do I want things to be better in my life? Do I want my kids to be happier? Do I want to be happier? Do I want things to change around me? Well, then I need to acknowledge that there can be a different way to do things. And that led to me saying, well, then if there is a different way, then why have I been doing it this way? And that really led me into so much inner work, and even into my childhood, and into my, my close family relationships and things that have happened to me in my life, to understand, oh, so like I'm reacting to you like this because it's making me, it's throwing me back in time into another situation, and I'm just already on the defensive and expecting it to be this negative way, or expecting this to hurt me, when really you're an entirely different person. And maybe it seems similar, but the intention isn't the same, or the words are not the same and I'm misinterpreting them. So it has really taken a lot of picking apart, not in an overly critical way, but in an analytical way, to try to understand and make those connections. And even then, like, I still repeat the behaviors, but the more you have that awareness, the sooner you can sometimes pull yourself back. And so, like you said, now I'm at the point where I'll have a thought and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's the ego. And the reason your ego is reacting that way is because you want to be a part of this and you're not, or whatever it is, instead of having all of the emotional reaction and maybe even like telling somebody off, or, I was saying something that isn't so kind, and then having to walk it back later, or, face the consequences of the negative impact you've had on someone, when really it really is about you and your own unhealed wounds.
Oh, wow. There is so much wisdom in what you just
there's a lot. And I
shared.
think
There's
all
so
you
much.
asked me was, where did that start? But really,
Right.
that's where
Yeah,
it's brought me. It's
absolutely.
been quite a journey.
Oh, I love so like everything that you just said, but just like the really like the gems in it. And this is what I love so much about, this is why I do this. This is what Fierce Queens is all about, is that even in these darkest moments, there's gems of wisdom, and now to be able to share it and for it to land. And, when you spoke about how it's like, we have this filter, that we don't even see. It's like we're looking at the world through our trauma and through our, and we react, and it happens so quickly until we do start to, it's like we start to just be aware, okay, there is the filter, there is the trauma. And when we can really fully start to separate it all, we can navigate around it, and we still have the feelings, but we can soothe those too.
That's right. It doesn't all completely go away. There's no quick fix or a pill that, is just like, and we're done. It's I guess it's the impact it has on us that lessens over time, and the strength that we've built in ourselves in coping with it.
Yes. Wonderful. So how did all of this shift your view of yourself, your view of the world? How did this change you, this going through this experience?
It has really taught me to love myself. And that's, most recently been the biggest shift for me. We all have all of our lives these, criticisms of ourselves, and that inner narrative that is often negative. And, I've spent years, listening to all the podcasts and working with mentors and all of that, and certain things sink in at different times. I think when on your journey, sometimes you're more ready to actually incorporate it, and other times you can do the talk, but it doesn't actually land. And that's been a really huge shift for me, is that I can look in the mirror and I love me. I've learned to love me for who I am, and for the road I've walked, and to where I've gotten to, and I'm happy inside. So I'm not relying on other people in my life to create that happiness for me. I can give it to myself, and they're all the bonus. They just elevate it, and they just make it all worthwhile and give me meaning and purpose. But within me, I'm happy. And that's been a huge jump for me, because my tendencies have always been to anxiety or depression, negative thinking. So it's been wonderful, actually. And the way I see the world, I think we're all wounded people in different ways. And it comes down to the choices we make too. You can be a wounded person and work on yourself to make things better, or you can be a wounded person and you can have no self-awareness or no inclination to want to make it better, and just continue to make things worse for yourself and those around you. It's kind of, what do you want to bring to the world? Do you want to bring that, goodness and love, or do you want to continue to bring chaos? And I think that, that all, it's the cliche, but it really does start from within you. You can't bring so much love to the world if you don't really love yourself, and so I see people differently when I interact with them. I see them as their stories. And so, some stories I don't know, obviously, of what they've been through, but it helps in how I react to them, because I can say, okay, well, they've got obviously quite a lot going on that is influencing this kind of behavior, or speech or whatever, that it's not my responsibility to fix, and to go about but it does at least put them in a frame of context that I can understand.
It's like this feeling of grace for yourself, grace for everyone else, and that self-love. I mean, it just radiates, right?
Yeah.
Like to be able to really fully connect to that, it radiates and has such an impact on the people around you. You know how we were describing earlier the opposite, how when you were in your lower moments, how that impacted everyone around you. And I just love these stories and examples of how for us to really go within and to put priority on us.
That's right. And not in that negative, selfish way, right?
Yeah.
It's in that way of care where I've learned to, say, I need to lie down. Like this is my energy levels have limits. And I recognize that I've always been a low energy person. That's just, and adrenal fatigue, I believe that that's definitely limited me over the last few years. And the more I've pushed, the less I've helped myself about it. So now I've learned that like, it's okay for me to lie down without being stressed about it. I don't need to apologize for it. And I can be a better person if I give myself that time. And then I can come back and be like, great, I'm here. I've, recharged a little bit and I can be my best self, as opposed to denying ourselves, right? And not giving ourselves what we need. And then we just end up taking it out on everyone around us too, right? So
yes, absolutely. I love that's something that we both share, that okay, I'm gonna go lie down now is my go-tos as well as a mama. Sometimes it's the best thing. And you're right, to just be able to do it and see it as a good thing. Like it's not something to be guilty about or to feel, like we're taking away from anyone else. It really does make such a huge difference. I love that.
Absolutely. And like, if you're lying down, if you're taking the time for yourself, but you're feeling stressed about it, or guilty, or that's not really going to have the impact you're actually needing. So, it's self-defeating to do it that way, to have those feelings around it. So it really is so important. And that's taken me a long time too. That was part of a lot of these challenges over the last couple of years. I had, it's been like my symbolic 2020 where I broke my foot and had 2 foot surgeries and then I had shingles. So like every 3-4 months I had something that immobilized me. And all of a sudden I've got kids in the house and like, mommy can't get up and run and go down the stairs and do everything you want to do. And I had to be okay with that. And it took me a long time to be okay with it. Like it was a real struggle to know that like, if I don't sit down and take the weight off my foot, or if I don't rest, this isn't going to get better, and I had to release it. I had to just know that it would pass and be okay with it because it's for my benefit. And if I don't do it, then they're also going to suffer because then they're going to have a mother who can't walk well, So giving ourselves that grace, as you said, and grace is such a beautiful word. And it has so much in it to unpack, but it's true. You have to do it with grace. It can't be a forced, negative feeling around it.
Well, and just what you really spoke to just now is that importance of really just being in acceptance and surrendering to the current moment, knowing that it will pass and knowing that we can move through it, because that resistance, the opposite of that, it's so what keeps us in struggle for longer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's been another huge lesson of learning. My boyfriend says a lot of times, he's like, well, just let go, just let go of it. And yes, let go, release, but sometimes it's hard because it lingers, like whatever feelings linger inside you. And what I've learned to do is kind of go like, okay, so I'm feeling this way. And like right now I can't let go of it, but just let it be there, go about your business, do your things, do whatever else you need to do. Don't let it stop you. The feeling can sit there, like you give it space there. Eventually it will work itself out because either it'll release itself, like you'll be so busy and kind of your attention and your drive will turn to something else and you'll realize that it wasn't that important to begin with. Or what I found is that sometimes revelations come or solutions come when you can turn your mind away from it for a
Mhm.
little bit without denying it, without saying like, no, you can't feel this. Or like, no, I'm feeling this way for a reason. I don't understand why. And I don't know why I can't let go of it, but it's there to teach me something. And so when I've done that, usually pretty quickly afterwards, the realization comes of like, oh, well, either that's bothering me because it's triggering some other feeling, or it's bothering me because really it's creating a dynamic that's making me uncomfortable. Whatever the realization is that helps you then take the next step to move past it comes along. But you do have to accept. And that comes to a lot of the imagery that I use in Phoenix Rising. That's the name of my business. And it's sitting in the flames of the discomfort of the feelings, right? I used that a lot when I was kind of going through the beginning of my journey. I would text my friends and be like, I'm sitting in a freaking bonfire of like uncomfortable and painful feelings right now. But those flames, if you just sit in it and let it be and accept that that's where you are right now, slowly those flames, like they kind of not wash water wise, but they burn away what's on the surface around what's inspiring those feelings. And then you can really get to the core of it, and it molds you fresh, right? Like you can rise above the flames, rise from the ashes. It's all of that mythology around the phoenix that rises reborn. Yes, you can rise beyond above it after you've gone through the process of accepting it, learning from it, letting it incorporate and change you somehow. It's not necessarily ultimate, cellular change, but sometimes it's a perspective change, or even if it's just on one issue, it's just your understanding of what that is. And you can rise above and kind of, that's when you can release it and leave it behind you. So all of that imagery is really powerful.
Oh, I love that so much. And I love that what you've been through has informed the work that you do, your business and your career. And can you share some of the go-to either tools or modalities that you've used for yourself that I'm assuming you also use in your work too? I'd love to hear more about, the things that really have made a difference for you.
So something that's really practical that I found made a huge difference, and I really I recommend it to everyone, is language. I mean, I'm a language girl as it is. I was a librarian for 20 years. I'm an editor now, so language is very important to me. And I've learned that language is really connected to energies. The different words we use for ourselves, and even in our internal monologues, really impact how we feel about ourselves, how we identify ourselves, and also how we engage with the world. So those things that we say to ourselves, like, oh, I'm so stupid, I shouldn't have done that. Well, even if we're just saying it flippantly, it's still such a negative word, right? So instead of I'm so stupid, no, it's, I could have thought about that more. I could have thought about that differently. I wish I had chosen different. We can change the way we address ourselves to have a more positive outlook or a more positive implication and connotation to the world and to us. So it's really changing those shifts of, even sometimes, like I've heard people say, oh, I'm so jealous of whatever. The word jealousy is really negative. How about, I love what they've got going on, or I love the new house that they've got. I wish that one day I can end up having a house like that, instead of I'm jealous of that. It's a whole other energy, right? And it brings out appreciation rather than resentment. So it's about really being careful of the words that you use. I even work with my own kids on that. I kind of sometimes I'll be like, can you please not say, we're not going to say this, we're going to say it differently. I hate this person. No, I really don't like what they're doing and it's hurtful to me, but we're going to take the word hate out of the sentence, and that, it can be seen almost too flighty by some people, but really, I really believe that it has an impact when you really incorporate it consistently into your language, into your thoughts.
Yes, I love that so much. And as a mama of a 13-year-old as well, I mean, it's so important. And it is, I think important for them to learn so young. And what you said about the energetic imprint of these words, the weight of the words, it's just, they are so powerful in both ways. And so this is very important. And I think it's just such an important reminder. And I'm so happy that you shared this, for everyone watching, because it's something that we can easily slip out of, when we get triggered
Sure.
again, so to just have that reminder to speak kindly to yourself, to your
To
loved
yourself and
ones.
others, words, there's, there's physical violence, which is absolutely horrific, but there's also verbal violence that, I'm not taking it into the sense of microaggressions or anything like that, but I'm taking it into in the world of energetics where, words leave bruises on people's hearts.
Yes.
Somebody will always remember the names you may have called them. It has no place in relationships. They'll remember the tone that you used to speak to them, and that stays, and that's very hard to erase. Bruises heal, but internal bruises don't. And so when you're in different relationships and speaking to different people and yourself, your own relationship with yourself, the names you call yourself are hard to shake. So it's really important to be aware of the words you use.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much. So one last question before we wrap up, because of course we're all authors of this book coming out, Jaguar Medicine. Can you share with us a little bit about your chapter, especially now knowing about the power of words? I'm even more excited to read your chapter because I know it'll just be infused with this love that you're sharing right now. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this chapter was actually a huge breakthrough for me. It's the first. I've got two chapters coming out around the same time, but it's the first one that I really sat down and I revealed myself to myself as well. I told my story a little kind of along the lines of what I've spoken about here, but I focused this chapter more on my spiritual awakening rather than the kind of the fundamentals of what was happening logistically in my life, and how I grew to get in touch with my intuition and my own energies and the things that I believe about myself, which has contributed to the love that I have for myself, that I've discovered, because I've discovered these qualities that I have that feel very purposeful and feel very soul guided, and so you said about language. So in it, I actually speak a lot about visualization, and the visualization work that I did with myself intuitively. I didn't have anyone really guiding me around it, but a lot of visualizing bright energy surrounding me at first it was a protection to kind of keep me safe, but then it shifted into not just protection but also healing and self-healing. And then I use those visualizations kind of in my world, and if I'm sitting with my daughter, I'll visualize the energy covering both of us, just to kind of send us both a really good feeling of healing and safety. And it helped me discover my soul persona. I was able to visualize who I believe I am, which is a healer and a guide. And as I've gone through the different stages in the last few years of my own evolution, she has changed as well with me, right? So it's this real internal soul connection, and it's meaningful to me, and it has propelled me forward to where I am. So it's the first time it's funny because now I'm talking about it whenever I have an interview, it's like now I have to talk about it, and it was something that was so private, but I really felt compelled to share it. It's a place, it steps into a space that not a lot of people necessarily want to go into. It's very spiritual, and yet at the same time, I think a lot of people have that and just don't want to share it, or don't, but at least they can relate to it when they read it.
Yes.
So yeah. That's a bit of my chapter. Can't reveal all of it, but
That's right. You have to buy the book, right?
That's right. Buy the book, read it. But yeah, it's a glimpse into the more spiritual side of my growth and my journey.
Yeah. Oh, I just, as you're speaking about this, you're glowing. Like you're literally, I just like the light around you, your expression. It's just really so, I can just feel the healing in it. I can feel the power of who you are.
Thank you.
And the magic. And I'm just so thrilled to have had this beautiful conversation with you to kick off Fierce Queens. Thank you so much, Talia.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you so much. That's really beautiful. That lens. I do feel it. I feel it in my body. I feel the energy flowing when I talk about it. So it resonates, and I'm glad that it's felt outwardly too. So thank you so much. And thank you for having me. This is a beautiful conversation. I loved it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you. So there have been some comments, and then we have some viewers, just some
Ooh,
really incredible people. I just want to say a quick hello to everyone and thank you for watching this. And
thank you, everyone.
yeah, we'll come and interact with you all in the comments a little bit later on. And
Amazing.
I will see you again very soon. Talia, thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Let's keep in touch. Thank you. Good luck for the rest of your 2-day bonanza. Thank you.
Thank you. I wish
All
you a
right.
very beautiful day.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.